Ever wondered why some investors seem to grow wealth faster, while others stay stuck in the grind? Today's guest has helped thousands break out of the default life and live a life unlimited by income. You're going to want to hear this. Todd Polke is an internationally recognized wealth strategist, investor, educator, keynote speaker, and best-selling author of Thrive Through Property. He's coached thousands of investors through over 9,000 strategy sessions, guiding more than $1 billion in investments across Australia and New Zealand. Todd's mission is simple but powerful. Help people live a life unlimited by income through strategic wealth systems, not guesswork. Todd, welcome to Attention is the Currency.
Daniel, super appreciate you having me on, mate.
Very welcome. We've been looking forward to it because we know that you're going to drop a lot of knowledge and all of your realistic strategies for the everyday person to build their wealth. So we'll get stuck into it because Todd, take us back to because you call yourself a former broke personal trainer. What was the turning point from there?
Yeah, look, I mean, I did what we're all taught to do at school, right? And I followed the script that I was handed by society, by my parents, by the education system, which is, as we all know, go to school, study hard so we can get a safe, secure job, exchange time for money, do that for the next 40, 50 years of your life, buy a home with a fat mortgage on it, pay it off, put your money away in a super, hope that's going to save you in the future, which is the biggest joke in the world. And then maybe, just maybe, one day you can retire and live the good life. And so that's what I did. I got out of school and, I kind of graduated in the wrong end of average. It wasn't really, I'm not an academic in any way, shape or form. But I was in love with health and well-being and training. And, I played judo for Australia and did a lot of sports and a lot of athletics. And I fell into the world of personal training. And here's one of my biggest things about personal training was that I used to think personal training was actually about personal training. And so I treated it that way. And I'll tell you what I mean in just a moment. And so I was just getting up at 4 a.m. in the morning. I'd go through at about 10 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock in the morning with clients. I'd start again about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'd go through until about 7 or 8 o'clock at night with clients. But as we know, like when you're running a small business, your day never stops when the number of clients you have in the day stops. And so, I still had admin to take care of, the bane of my existence, marketing to do, clients to take care of, like all the other things you think about when you're running a business. And so my day would finish at midnight. And I'd do that 6 days a week and I'd do that 50 weeks of the year because my whole rule of creating success and my philosophy was, well, the harder I work, then the more successful I'll become. And that's what I thought. And I just went beating that drum. And by about the age of 19, 20 years old, I broke myself. I broke my body. I was training very heavily at that point in time and I wound up in hospital and couldn't walk for about 4 weeks. Go Todd, personal trainer, can't walk. Congratulations. I was getting sick all the time. Personal trainer, beacon of health, getting sick all the time. Well done. I broke my relationship. I broke my personal life. And then the one area where I thought it was supposed to be doing well, but based on the number of hours that I was putting in, at the end of the year, I was still broke financially. And I got to a point of going, this is bullshit. There's got to be a better way than this. Like this whole pathway that we're supposed to live in life. I realized right back then is that we've been given a faulty set of rules and it was broken. And I sat there on the cliffs in Kangaroo Point where I was living at the time. And I've reflected, I've pushed forward 5 years of my life and said, well, how would life be if I was still in the exact same position I'm in right now? And all of a sudden, all of my nightmares came true in one foul swoop. And I made a decision at that point in time was not another moment, not of the day. That was it. And I started studying successful people because I realized, well, they just know something I don't. It's not that I can't do it. I just haven't got the system. I haven't got the rules. There's got to be another way. And in the end, I found a very good mentor and I bought my first property within 6 months of starting that with that mentor, having no money to begin with, having no idea what I was doing to begin with. But I was able to squeeze out my very first property deal for $291,000 on the Gold Coast and wound up making $70,000 in that one property deal after doing a small renovation in the space of 9 months, more than my entire year's income as a personal trainer, grinding it out 17 hours a day. And I learned at that moment that profits are better than wages. And I learned that if I didn't get my money working hard for me, I was going to spend my entire life working hard for my money. And I realized that wealth isn't about luck. It's just a system. You follow the system, you get the result. And after having that experience, there's no way I could go back to personal training. No way I could go back into the army where I was as well. No way I could keep following the same, beating the same drum year after year. I found a new way and I fell in love with it, not just because of the choice it makes in life, but how it can help other people. Because we work our entire lives for money, but we never taught how to use it, manage it, or grow it.
Yeah, it's such a relatable thing. I know that we're all burning ourselves out thinking we were doing the right things, and it's just. And why do you think so many people sort of live what you call the default life? Why do you think people don't break out of it?
Well, a lot of the reason is comfort, and I call it. I've been calling it default life for a long time. I call it the middle. I've just actually published a book by Wiley. It's in all the bookstores now. It's called Escape the Middle, right? And so, what the middle is that people follow this set of rules in life, the default life rules, and they wind up in this place called the middle, which is the middle level of income, middle level of earnings, middle level of meaning, middle level of time, middle level of choice, middle level of happiness, middle level of freedom. And they get stuck in this place called the middle. And the reason a lot of people stay stuck there is fundamentally it's their comfort zone, but it's also fear, because we're never taught anything about money or investing. We automatically assume that it's risky. Okay, investing equals risky. And so what people go do is that they just follow the same path because it's where they're comfortable. It's what their parents did, it's what their friends do, it's what community does, what society does. So people automatically assume, well, that must be the right way to do things. And anything else sounds like it's too risky to do it. And so because of this need for comfort and certainty and security, a lot of people, even though they're unhappy with their current level of freedom they have, they just keep going around and around this loop because anything outside of that feels far too risky for them. But to me, the riskiest thing is staying exactly where you are, doing the same thing day after day.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I know that most people, yeah, the people are very naive about things because I know my early days, uh, uh, I didn't spend money very well, and I didn't, and it was I've gotten better over the years as we do,
It's
but
good to hear. Yeah.
we could always do better. But looking for that right knowledge, it's tough because we don't get that in school
Yeah.
as such. It's and you say there are no secrets to wealth, only systems. Can you break that down for us?
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, like when I started studying success, I decided at the age of 19 or 20 that was going to be a study of mine. And I started reading and obliterating every book I could find. We didn't have podcasts back then. This was 20 years ago. We didn't have webinars. It just wasn't a thing. And so I was attending live seminars and doing that type of stuff every weekend. That's where I was. And I was addicted to it, like addicted in a big way. And so I listen to people of property and shares and crypto and business and personal transformation and range of different things. And what I came to understand is that they didn't get there because they were born under a lucky star. They didn't get there because they had the right parents or they had a lot of money or all the bullshit lies we're taught. Oh, well, you got to have money to make money. And, money doesn't grow on trees and all the type of nonsense that we're taught along the way. And so as I listened to each of them, what I really understood is that although their system is different based on whether they're doing property or shares or whatever it is, every single one of them had a system, right? And I just started to realize, well, what is my system based on what I want to create and what I want to do and how I'm going to develop that. Now, after what I've been teaching for the last 20 years now is what I call the portfolio wealth operating system, right? And the idea is that this is the operating system behind your money. It's the thing that operates in the background, whether you are awake, whether you're asleep, whether you're working, whether you're not working, whether you are thinking about it or not thinking about it. It's just constantly operating in the background because that's where we start to create true freedom in our life, where our money is working for us even while we're sleeping. And so when I think about this system, I think about this triangle, right? And on the triangle, we got three sides of the triangle, and I have three core parts of this: strategy, structure, and then the cash flow system associated to it. Now, now I could dive into this for hours, but like on a super high, we zoom out and high level. The strategy is all about, well, let's make sure you've got a game plan. Let's make sure that you know how you're going to go from where you are right now to create what I call your financial freedom figure into the future. And what are your next steps going to be? And everyone's pathway is going to be different, right? Although there's frameworks that everyone's going to follow and some common steps, everyone's version of financial freedom is going to be different. Everyone's risk profile is different. Everyone's starting point is different. So you've got to create a strategy, because if you don't have one, you're just wandering around in the dark and you're hoping for the best and just gambling. And investors don't gamble. Once we've got a strategy in place, we're now ready to start building a portfolio. Not before, like most people just try and skip all everything and go, hey, let's buy a property or buy shares, because being an investor is easy. Buy a share, get a dividend on it, and congratulations, you're an investor. But that's a very different scenario than an investor who creates financial freedom, right? And so we get a plan. We're now ready to build a portfolio. Then we've got to put our structure in place, because we're not trying to build flash in the pan wealth. What we're trying to build is sustainable wealth. And coming from someone, in my early 20s, I built a lot of wealth in a short period of time. I then proceeded to lose a lot of wealth in a short period of time, almost lost everything, had to start again because I didn't have my structure down. I didn't have what I could now call a financial fortress, where we've got these deep, strong roots and this wall around us that we're protecting ourselves and our family and our portfolio and our future. So we've got to get a structure in place. Now we're ready to start accumulating assets. And that's where we install the cash flow system, so we can start accumulating off-market deals, because the best deals are always done off-market. And how do we install those systematically, step by step, in the portfolio? That's going to create a consistent and sustainable income to start funding the lifestyle we desire. Strategy, structure, system, all moving towards what you want in the future, which is your financial freedom figure.
So what would be the 7 portfolio areas you would focus on in that?
Yeah. So I can never separate the tactical strategy side of things to the philosophical, psychological side of things. To me, it all has to go hand in hand together, right? The mindset and the psychology around money and wealth building is absolutely essential. And unfortunately, most people have very dirty minds when it comes to money, right? Because we're just not given a strong framework or strong conditioning around it. And I certainly wasn't. I just grew up in a middle-class family. My parents hated debt. They thought university was the key to success in life, and that was about it, right? And so at some point in time, we've actually have to start rewiring our psychology and mindset and turn on what I call the millionaire mode, right? And because you're never going to out-earn yourself. If you want to create a brand new level of outcome in your life, meaning a change in external resources, then you've got to rewire what's actually happening inside your mind. You've got to shift your ecosystem, because you're only going to create what you are. And this is why we see lotto winners, right? They go and win millions of dollars, and in 3 to 5 years, they've lost it all and back to where they started, because their external reality changed, but their internal operating system didn't, right? And they kept applying the same habits, the same way of thinking, the same way of doing, and ultimately their external life rewound to what's going on within them, right? So to me, psychology, there's a strategy around that. Secondly is all about your personal finances, because why would you be given more money to manage if you can't manage what you've already got, right? And this is where we have to have a system around our finances. So as soon as a dollar hits your bank account, it has a plan, it has a purpose, knows exactly what it's doing and where it's doing. Otherwise, we get this mystery of the universe called evaporating money. I don't know if you've had that in your life before, Daniel, evaporating money.
Yeah. You don't know where it all goes. It's
right. Money comes into your life, then it just magically evaporates. We don't know where it happens.
Yeah. I got good 20 grand. I wonder where that was.
Right, exactly. And then it's just, as you progress in your career, and I work with a lot of high performers in the world. They earn hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars, and yet it's not a $500 that's evaporating. It's tens of thousands of dollars or $50,000 or more, right? So we get a personal finance system. We get what I call a tax-less system, which isn't just about reducing tax. I mean, in Australia, we're one of the highest taxed nations in the entire world, and the government is always looking to take their piece in every way, shape, or form, and they're changing the rules as they see fit, and they're doing it right now. They're changing the entire landscape and trying to squeeze more money out of everybody because of reckless spending. But that's another conversation.
I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it.
Yeah, I get. One thing I get very, very passionate about, Daniel, about the wastage that's going on. I think it's absolutely insane.
Yeah, no, I see it. Being in business and working with so many small business owners, you see it all the time.
You would, wouldn't you? Right. And just with and it's almost every area, right? Small business is just it's suffering. Like, cost of living is so high. Inflation's been eating everyone's buying power. The cost of housing and all that type of stuff, it's through the absolute roof. And no wonder people are struggling. But this is why I always say that, this is why you have to invest, right? This is why you have to take some steps, because if anything we've learned over the last 20 years after the, wars and debt crises and global financial crisis and the lockdowns and all that type of stuff, is that financial security of just have a safe, secure job and have your own home paid off. That's a thing of the past. That doesn't equal financial security in any way, shape, or form. And so, and with the central bank digital currencies coming and the new tax regimes that's being introduced and a range of other things and build to rent and a whole lot of other stuff, people's liberties and freedoms are being systematically removed, right? And I think people really have to take notice now.
They definitely do. Well, this is where, they need the right knowledge. I'm very passionate about getting that. That's why I get you on the show, and people get a bit of just start thinking a little bit differently about how they spend their money and how they, how they accumulate wealth, how they put the money in the bank as well.
Right.
So, what are the sort of top mistakes you see investors making?
Yeah. I'll just close that loop in that last one first. It was tax less, having multiple income streams in your life, and then lending and leverage strategy, because there's 6 levers of leverage. Otherwise, you become the bottleneck of your own success. And then there's the investment empire, which is all about investing, right? So psychology, personal finance, tax less, which is reducing mistakes, lending and leverage, multiple income streams, and then we move on to accumulating assets. So big mistakes.
Yes.
I see a lot of people fundamentally is that they apply what I call the buy and hope strategy, right? Where they go out in the marketplace and they just buy something and hope like hell it works out, right? And usually when people are buying at that type of level, they're buying with emotions. And emotions plus investing means you're going to lose money, pure and simple. And that's why we see people go into housing and they walk into a house and then they go, oh, I love the kitchen, or I hate the kitchen, or I love the couch, or the couch could go there and we can have barbecues out the back. And like, as soon as you start doing that, you've got to walk out of the house. This is an investment property. Give yourself an uppercut, take off your emotional hat, put your investor hat back on, and go look at it from a standpoint of, how is this actually going to grow in value? How is this going to be desirable to a local demographic who are either going to buy this from me in the future or rent it, right? So, and how can I do proper due diligence to make sure that I buy a property that creates its own economy and is going to outperform the marketplace no matter what the rest of the market is doing? So mistake number one, people buy with emotions and then they act with emotions, and they buy during the hype and sell during the downturn. We see this in the world of crypto.
I said, well, I was a former real estate agent. I saw them coming.
Yeah, absolutely. And you would have seen all the emotions that come in with the buying process and the selling process and all that type of stuff. It's interesting to understand everyone's emotions as they're coming in, but you can't play that game yourself. So I think buying with emotions is a big mistake a lot of people make. There's no doubt about it. Another big mistake. So I think that people stop valuing a dollar. They talk about that the eighth wonder of the world is all about compound interest, right?
Yeah.
And so I made this mistake as my income started to grow. I stopped valuing the power of a single dollar. Now, this isn't about being penny pinching. It's not about being, you have to be meticulous every single day of your money. Like that's not living. And I'm not like that myself. But what I started to do is that I started to make exceptions. And what I mean by that is I stopped doing the things that got me into the space of wealth in the first place. And I had to give myself a kick up the ass at some point in time during this. And we've had this experience in life, is that when we go and get our first job, a lot of people have had this experience. They get their first job, maybe they're earning $50,000 a year in their first job, and then they get a raise, right? And they're living on their 50 grand, but then their income goes up to 55. And what magically happens, and we don't know how this occurs, again, there's another mystery of the universe, their expenses magically rise in direct proportion to their income. And now they're living on 55. And their income goes to 65, right? And then their expenses magically, we don't know how it happens, but it goes up to 65, right? And then 70 and 80 and up and up and up and up. And all of a sudden you're earning 200 grand a year, but you can barely live. And I see a lot of people earn 300, 400, $500,000 a year, but they're going backwards in terms of their savings. They're overspending. And so they stopping valuing a dollar is a critical mistake, because you wind up just your money doesn't have a job, it's just kind of coming into your life, then it's just going out the window straight away. And I would say the third big mistake that I see is that people don't treat wealth building as a business. I have a core belief that everyone is their own CEO of their wealth business. It's a core belief. I think we have our personal wealth, our personal life, and that's a business. I think we have our job and career or business, and that's a business. And I think we have our investment portfolio, and that's a business. And the reason I call it that is because there's a certain way of thinking that goes into being the CEO of your wealth creation business, right? And this is where we start thinking and acting like a wealth leader in our own life, right? And how we get, where are we going? What's our outcome? And what's our plan to be able to create it? And how do we consistently, methodically execute on a system over time that's going to get the result, right? And I'm not talking about get rich quick. Get rich quick is a mug's game. It doesn't work, never does, right? And get rich quick is short-term thinking. Short-term thinking sacrifices long-term results. I'm interested in playing long-term games with long-term people, right? And there's the people that I think about building wealth over a period of time and building a systematic and sustainable wealth. Doesn't mean you can't create results quickly. You absolutely can. And many of my clients are creating financial freedom in 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, depending on their starting position and how committed they are to creating it. But you've got to have the right psychology and start treating your business, become the CEO of your personal wealth creation business.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're just getting realistic about it. It's because it's
a lot of people avoid it. Hey, like
yeah,
oh, it's
well, they definitely do. Yeah.
too scary. Let's not look over there and let's draw a discreet veil and hope it's all just going to work out.
Yeah. Well, as you said earlier, it's scarier to stay in that spot, stay in that not living that exciting life, not living your dreams. And
Right.
and money is a big part of our lives. It's got to be a conversation that's had more often.
Well, pretending it's not is just you're just lying to yourself and you're lying to everybody around you, right? And I always talk to everyone about normalizing wealth creation. Normal is, hey, let's exchange our time for money our entire lives and work to pay the bills. Like that's normal.
Yeah.
That's a shit normal. There's no two ways about it, right? Like, what if we normalize wealth creation? What if we normalize conversation around financial freedom, around wealth, around investing, around risk, around debt, around property, around shares, around crypto? What if that was normal, where we're talking about what we want to create and how we're going to create it? Because in the end, money is just a unit of choice. It's nothing else. It's just a thing, right? But and more we can learn to use it effectively as a tool in our life to create more choices, then why wouldn't you want to do that? Because life's about so much more than working to pay the bills. So let's
I think it's
normalize wealth creation. Let's
well,
normalize these type of conversations.
it's no. I guess it's normally comparison. People don't like to compare because when they compare, they see a lot of holes instead of going. But whenever I see somebody doing better than me, I like to say, "Oh wow, they're going so well. What can I learn from them?"
Right.
And if that's the real shift in that mindset in there.
It's interesting, and that's not normal for Aussies, right? Especially
Oh, it's
Aussies with
not.
our
It's really not in
democracy,
our
right?
culture, and that's part of our
Really
issue.
not.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing, I think Robbins was talking about this or someone, I don't know who it was. I remember hearing the story around, in Australia, if someone sees a souped up car or something, a hot car or whatever it is, a luxury car, then the automatic response, oh, you wanker, and they'll key your car and this type of stuff.
Yeah,
But in the
that's it.
US, for example, like people go wait beside the car to actually ask them what they did. And I've got some very wealthy friends in the US and they've had this experience, like people just wanting to talk to them again. Dude, like, congratulations. How did you do this? Would love to hear about it, right? And it's this different type of mentality and psychology. And, I've traveled around the world a lot. And, my wife's Singaporean and we spent a bunch of time in China and a bunch of time in Europe and Dubai and US and all over the place. And what I found with Australia is that there's this island style thinking, right? And it's actually small thinking compared to some of the stuff that's going on in the rest of the world. So
Yeah.
we've got to break free of this confinement and this kind of mentality of jealousy and tall poppy and syndrome like that, and really start collaborating together and talking about where we want to go and what we want and how we can go and do it.
Well, it's 100% true. Well, most of my clients these days I get overseas from the
Yeah,
US and so on, just because they're more open to building up their brand.
right.
And most of the interviews that I do by are foreign people, and that's why I
Yeah,
was
right.
really happy to get you on here because you're another Aussie, and we're both in that same mindset of that we want to expand and we want to get that we want to change things for people. And it's just, yeah, it's really, it is crazy, and that's why that's why Australia could be that one of the it could be the luckiest country in the world, because we
Yeah.
have all the resources, we have all the wealth, we have the beautiful beaches, but it's just not just because of that mindset is the main thing that's keeping it down.
And we have a very complacent mindset in Australia, right? And I mean, this isn't about bashing Australia. Like I love Australia, right? It's
Yeah,
one of the most beautiful places in the entire world, and some of the cultural things here I love. But we've also been very spoiled because we have the resources, and because we have the resources, it's lowered productivity in Australia. And I was reading something the other day that 50% of all voters in Australia, 50% rely upon government support for their main source of income. Just think
yeah,
about that for a moment. Like, where do we get to in life in Australia where 50% of our voters rely upon government support for their main source of income? Like, what's happened? What's going on? Like, but this leaves a wide open moat for people as well. Like someone who's actually got some gumption and wants to go, hey, I'm going to get here and I'm just going to go for it. Like there is wide open space for you to do that here in Australia because most other people just aren't.
yeah, that's it. Well, that's where, we still have those limiting beliefs though, because they don't open you open up something new and they go, oh no, that looks like a scam because it's new.
Yeah.
Anything that's new that's bad is bad. But it does move us into our next area, because we want to talk about your brand, because you've already touched on a bit of this, but I think we can really sum up a bit more of this, because I think it's an inspiring thing for people listening. Because your brand is about creating more money, more time, more freedom. But what does that look like in real life? Because I know that you travel and
Yeah,
you,
for me personally, is that
yeah,
what you're
for you
asking?
personally.
Yeah, look, I mean, I've had the incredible, outrageous fortune to start in a different area in my life. And when I was at a young age, I had that disruption at a young age, and it set me on a different pathway. And I created financial freedom in my 20s. I lasted about 4 weeks then before I got bored out of my mind and had to get back to doing something. And then I created financial. Then I kind of decided, well, I'm going to exit myself again. And then probably about 3 to 4 years later, I lasted about 13 days before I got bored out of my mind. Um, I don't believe in retirement. I think retirement is actually a very low strategy. It's a very low standard. I believe in setting up a life you don't have to retire from, right? And I think that life isn't about sitting back under a palm tree. It's about what can you give back to the planet? Like, how can you leave the world in a bit of a better place? Like, what's the impact you want to have here? What is, what's the legacy wealth you want to leave where the world was a better place because you lived here? What's the stories that you want to pass down to your kids and their kids just coming from a life well lived, right? What's the intergenerational wealth that you want to leave? And this is what I think about a lot, right? Life for me now is I'm busy. There's no two ways about it. I run two businesses. My wife is we're building a global organic cosmetics company that we're moving towards an exit in the next kind of 3 to 4 years. We do a lot of private equity work. I've got two kids and a 14-year-old daughter and a two-year-old son. We live in a beautiful rainforest here in the Currumbin Valley, and there's always stuff to pot around, and we travel around the world. Life's busy, but I love it. I enjoy it, and we've got time and we've got choice and we've got opportunity, but very deeply we get to really help a lot of people along the way in what we do. And so um, I'm a big believer in legacy. I'm a big believer in having an impact on the planet. And now that I have those choices, all my attention and focus is on that. And it's how can I be the best dad that I possibly can be as I'm raising my kids? How can I educate as many people and give as many people as I can the tools and the resources so that they can break free of the middle, right? Escape the middle. And how can I actually start building, um, helping the planet in a better way? And conservation is my big thing, right? And how can I help other businesses and support them who want to give back to doing something good for the planet? How can I help them get off the ground by investing in them and guiding them, that type of stuff? So that's very much where my life is right now.
Yeah. Or how do you help clients sort of aligned with that wealth building with living a meaningful life as well? What sort of tools do you use in there? Because I'm sure, because especially because you've done a lot of progress in Australia, and I'm sure there's something there because some people go, oh, money's bad, and it's a difficult alignment.
Yeah, well, yes and no. It's interesting. What I find in Australia is that people, they do want more choice and they do want more time, right? But there's this little bit of a natural mistrust. And so what I find, and when it comes back to you, when we're talking about personal brand and stuff before as well, right? Like I've been doing this for 20 years now, right? And I've helped thousands and upon thousands of people over the years. And so people, they have a lot of trust in me and what I do just because I've been doing it for a long period of time and I've gotten incredible results for people over that period of time. So it's not as if people don't want help and don't want support and aren't willing to listen, but they take a lot longer to be able to, well, I'm going to think about this and I'm going to take my time in this. Whereas someone like America, they tend to make decisions, a lot of Americans, depending where you are, of course, there's massive generalization, will tend to make decisions a little bit faster. And
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think
Well,
like,
I experienced it in my product line, so
I,
yeah,
I absolutely imagine that you would. And a lot of colleagues and people that I know and work with, they choose to work a lot in the American marketplace for the exact same reason. And,
yeah,
and my American clients, when they've come on board, they've heard me like once and they heard one webinar and they, oh, let's go, let's do it, right? Where it might take 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things for them to watch, right? And so, but people do want help, but they want to know that they've got someone they can trust. They want to know that someone's got their back and that they're going to be handheld along the entire way because very often very afraid of making mistakes. They certainly want to create wealth, but often they're very more fearful about making mistakes. And so it's a very, very measured approach in what we do. But like, whenever I work with anyone, the very first thing that we do is that we break down the numbers, right? And we do a whole fact find process so we can actually really dig in to understand what's going on and what's really needed. And when we have that understanding, is that this is like pillar number one. Pillar number two: where do you want to be? How long? Like, where do you want to be? When do you want to be? Like, what kind of portfolio do you want to be earning? Of what do you want to spend your time doing? And how much is that going to cost? And we now we've got a box that we can operate in, right? And then strategy is that, well, how are we going to get there? And it's never a linear path. It's something that we zigzag through step by step over time as we get to where we are. Because every time something in your life changes, strategy changes, or your business life changes, or the market, or the government, or the economy, or whatever it goes, strategy is this constant evolving and changing process as we continually weave our way towards this ultimate outcome that we want to be able to create in the future. And so strategy is the thing that's going to lead us there. And alongside that strategy is education, right? Because when we can, like I always talk to my clients, I was talking to a couple yesterday who have just started working with me recently. And, I always use this analogy that's kind of like you got a fire hose in your mouth and you're trying to hang on because it's just, you're learning so much. It's like you're learning a new language. You've gone into a new country, you don't know the language, and you start to learn please and thank you and water and bathroom and whatever it actually is. And as you take that step with those little words, you then deepen yourself in the ecosystem and then you have a foundation that you can add more words on it. And that's the same with wealth building. And people always say, after 6 months, 12 months of working with me, like they've learned their new language of money and they're conversing and having conversations in a radically different way. And once we've got a plan in place, just about consistent execution over time. And that, I'm convinced that's the pathway to success, whether it be health and well-being, personal transformation, business. It's a consistent execution over a period of time and staying true to the cause and not just running away in fear when something goes wrong, because something will go wrong. Pretty well guarantee it. And it's those that are willing to kind of move past those challenges are the ones that are going to create success versus those that don't.
definitely. And I just had a thought where you were talking around that aligning people. Normally, unfortunately, I think the media it always reports heavily on things that go wrong with
Right.
wealth building and
Right.
for people. And I get when you're someone that's actually actively doing that with the right intentions, the media has made it more difficult. That's why they've made it more fearful of actually taking advice.
Well, and the media thrives on fear, right? Because it grabs attention, it sells headlines. They're not into reporting truth; they're into grabbing attention. It's exactly what you speak about, Daniel. But often it's just
Yeah.
used in a less ethical way, so to speak. And so that, it's this happened, or war or drought, or this happened, and then the cat climbed up a tree and it got saved and it was fine. And that's the bit of good news out of 7 bits of bad news, right? It's
Yeah,
kind of what it is. And so you've got to safeguard your mind, because is you keep letting that stuff just coming in and coming in and coming in, then you start conditioning yourself to that's how life is, and that's what life is about, because you're training your unconscious mind. And you've got to train it the right way. You've got to be far more intentional with what you allow where your attention to go and to grow.
100%. So, what's the next evolution for your wealth education movement? Where are you going in that direction?
Yeah, super interesting question. I'm in a lot of some deep thoughts about this right now, right? And so from a business standpoint, I'm a teacher and an educator at heart. I'm always going to teach. I love writing books. My latest book, Escape the Middle, is going really well. It's just been published, and I've got 2 more books in my mind I'm going to start writing. So that's all that, but I have to hold myself back and just focus on the business of this book first. So I love that side of things. I love the teaching. I love the educating. I love the speaking. Like, that's a big part of my world. What I'm also really enjoying at the moment is the world of private equity and angel investing. I've been able to have the privilege of do a lot of work with companies that are foundational levels and doing some angel investing in those, and I'm really enjoying that type of process. So, and a lot of my clients get the opportunity to be able to invest in things that they would never have the ability to be able to invest in otherwise, right? And so I'm really enjoying that side of things. But what's really interesting, and this is talking like as I'm thinking, things are going through my mind. From a business standpoint, what I'm really interested in, where my thinking around business is going, is that I used to think that personal training was about personal training until I realized it wasn't. And I used to think about wealth coaching was wealth coaching until I realized that it wasn't. It's about developing the systems, but from a business standpoint, it's almost like I'm starting to realize that, wow, you've almost got to be running a media company within internal to your business while you've got this other thing going on. And so I think about my business. I go, well, there's a media company, there's the education company, and then there's the deals company. And so that's where I'm starting to position things as I'm kind of going moving forward. I'm not interested in having a big team of 100, 200 people or anything like that. What I'm interested in having, good people and a small group where we are really working and serving people and giving people the tools they need to create real tangible outcomes and results in their life.
But that's perfect. And it leads us into the next question, because where can listeners learn more or work with you directly? Where's the best places?
Yeah, there's a couple of really cool places that people can go. They can get some really cool information and opportunity, right? We run a free Facebook community called the Wealth Dojo. It's a free Facebook community full of thousands of investors who are just all there to learn about money, learn about wealth, learn about financial freedom, and we'd love to have you a part of it. It doesn't cost you anything. We give a lot of free trainings in there. I do a lot of videos in there. We got a lot of downloads and things like that. So it's called the Wealth Dojo. So anyone that go and search that, you'll be able to find it.
No, great. We'll make sure that we link it through the description anyway to let the
Awesome.
listeners know.
And the other place that I'd say for people, we're doing a lot more stuff on YouTube, so definitely find me on there, Todd Polke. But go and grab a copy of my book and from Amazon or escapethemiddle.com. And if anyone really wants to get the system down and that pathway and the exit plan from there, from the middle, as I call it, that's the place to start. And it's just jam packed full of good stuff in there. So Escape the Middle. You can find it on Amazon. You can go escapethemiddle.com and be able to grab that as well. So that's some of the cool places people can go to connect.
That's perfect. And Todd, our signature close question: if attention is the currency, what should people stop spending it on and start investing it in?
But it's such a good question. I absolutely love it. I always think about success in life is all about successful decision making. That's what I think success in life is about, whether it be money or relationships. Like in a relationship, in a marriage, the decisions you make on a regular basis and how you're investing in the marriage, investing in the relationship versus what you might be taking away from it. It's all just decisions, right? And I thought about this a lot when it comes to wealth building. And I think in life that each of us have 4 primary resources that we have in life at any point in time that we get to make decisions with. We have a limited amount of time in this moment. We have a limited amount of energy in this moment. We have a limited amount of money in this moment, and we have a limited amount of knowledge in this moment. And it's the different decisions we make with those four primary resources are really going to be the things that's going to dictate and be the big accelerator to your own success and joy and happiness and progress in life. And so I think the big thing is all about intentionality. The more intentional that we can be with where we are directing those resources, and which is ultimately our attention, because our attention is just driven from these four different things, then the greater your outcomes and results are going to happen in life.
That's perfect. That's great, Todd. Todd Polke just gave us the blueprint for growing wealth without guesswork. If you're ready to create a life unlimited by income, check out toddpolke.com and join the Wealth Dojo community. Share the episode with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, wealth isn't luck, it's a system. Thanks again, Todd.
Thanks so much, Daniel.